What's over the garden wall? Apparently a lot of creepy stuff. So this week I checked out Cartoon Network's first ever miniseries, Over the Garden Wall. It was created by Pat McHale, who worked on Adventure Time and The Marvelous Misadventures of Flapjack. Which, depending on who you talk to, is either really good or really bad. This show aired in 10 short chapters, which aired over 5 nights. There was also a lot of hype about this show too, and it seems Cartoon Network did not hold back for once. The plot is about 2 young boys named Wirt and Gregory. Not sure what kind of name Wirt is, but they're lost in the woods and they're looking to find their way home. And along the way they meet all kinds of strange, bizarre characters, a lot of creepy people, a lot of creepy locations, and all the while they're being stalked by a mysterious, shadowy figure called the Beast. And, well, I wish I could say more, but I really don't want to spoil this show for you, because it was advertised as a 5-night mystery event, and after watching it, it is one of those shows you really gotta experience for yourself, so consider this review spoiler-free. A lot of great voice acting in this, and a lot of great guest celebrity voices as well. Some of them I didn't even recognize at first. Elijah Wood was the voice of Wirt, and his younger brother Greg was voiced by Colin Dean, who I don't think has done much just yet, but he is a young voice actor, and he was very good for his role, so I guess this is a really good breakout role for him. Along the way they meet a talking bluebird named Beatrice, who acts as sort of a shady guide. She's voiced by Melanie Lynskey. I don't think I've heard her in anything else either, but she was also really good. She's from New Zealand too, and when I was watching some of the behind the scenes stuff, she had a very distinct accent, and she covered it up pretty well, and her voice was kind of adorable actually. The most prominent celebrity voice in this is Christopher Lloyd, who played a woodsman who's sort of shadily stalking the boys while they're on their journey. Now, of course, most people know Christopher Lloyd as Doc Brown from Back to the Future, but here's a fun little trivia fact for you. Elijah Wood was in Back to the Future too. If you go back to the scene where Marty goes to 2015 and he's at the cafe and he's playing with the arcade machine, Elijah Wood was one of the kids that was taunting him. You mean you gotta use your hands? That's like a baby's toy! John Cleese was also in this. He voiced an eccentric rich guy, and then later on we heard him again as a creepy old lady. That's some really good range he has there. The one that surprised me most, and I didn't even recognize him at first, was Tim Curry, and he played another creepy old lady. Seems to be a theme in this show. I love how this story was laid out because they were very vague about so many things, and it made you, come up with theories about stuff that might happen and how this is all going to turn out. But there was also a lot of red herrings. Like, you'd think that you'd have everything figured out, and then by the time an episode ends, you're like, well, that changed everything. I like that this show was scary. There was a lot of very tense and creepy moments in it. The Beast was following them through the woods and all you saw was his glowing eyes. There was a creepy, werewolf creature. There was a child-eating demon ghost things. I loved it. It was incredible. This is my favorite kind of story. The kind where children overcome odds. They go through all these frightening and seemingly impossible situations and they find a way to overcome and fight back. I love stuff like The Never-Ending Story, things like that, because for a child character, it represents growth, it represents maturity, a rite of passage, and when it's done right, it can be a really strong story. A lot of really good acting in this too. If you've heard anything with Christopher Lloyd in it, usually his voice is sometimes played up for laughs, but that wasn't the case with this. His character was taken very seriously. Elijah Wood was really good as well, and like I said, Melanie was really good too. Personally for me, the one that stood out most was Gregory. Now, I've heard a lot of people were kind of annoyed with him, but I didn't feel that way at all because he had a very low, very somewhat monotone voice, so it's not like his voice sounded annoying. And I like the fact that he was a very, very positive character. You know, he's very optimistic, and he's like, yeah, we're gonna get home, you know, in the midst of all this stuff that keeps happening to them. I liked that this was a mini-series, and I'll tell you why. Because, let's be honest with ourselves here, Cartoon Network tends to cancel a lot of shows we really like, don't they? But when you have a mini-series, you have a beginning and a predetermined end and a predetermined amount of time to get to that end. So they can tell a story and then end it without us worrying about if it's going to get canceled or not. You know, because we have shows that last for several seasons and then suddenly they're just gone for no reason, or it was too violent, or for some stupid reason, like girls weren't buying the toys. I know Cartoon Network's not the only one guilty of this, like Disney's done it as well, but they probably done it more than anyone else. And I think the miniseries is a very good compromise, because we can have our story, end it, and then move on to the next one. Probably the thing I liked most about this show was it was very American. Now, what does that mean? Well, oftentimes when you see how fiction is, you know, inspired, usually creators will draw from, you know, European legends or European ideas, or Asian, you know, how many animators say they were inspired by anime? But this was so American, like it felt like an like a folklore from America. I in fact was trying to do some research on this and see if they did in fact take stories from American folklore and adapt it, and I honestly couldn't find much, but it felt so authentic that if they did make all this up, then kudos to them. On top of it all, it takes place in America. It's, most of the setting is of like American style time periods. There was pumpkin patches and fall leaves and farms and buildings and towns that looked very rustic American. It looked very New England, or some cases it felt very southern. There was an episode where they were on a riverboat and it felt very Mark Twain-like. And this is something that I really wish we'd see a lot more in fiction. You know, I really don't have too many negative things to say about this. The only things I can come up with is it does feel like this is Cartoon Network's answer to Gravity Falls, because like I said before, this is a mystery adventure, and that's kind of one of the things that Gravity Falls, you know, prides itself on, you know, the mystery. So it did feel like someone at Cartoon Network goes, well, people love that mystery show, so we need a mystery show. We've officially exhausted Scooby-Doo, even though there's gonna be more Scooby-Doo, but we need something new. Not that that's really a bad thing, though. I mean, who doesn't love a good mystery? I do. Gets you thinking, and that's very healthy for you. Probably the biggest problem I had with this was the final resolution, like what the point of all this was. It wasn't bad, and there was a lot of heavy metaphor to it, but without giving too much away, let's just say the conflict was really a non-conflict. Again, it wasn't bad. In fact, it was a very good resolution, but I feel with all the hype around this show and, you know, the journey we went on throughout the show, maybe I was expecting something a little more. The last question I have is, why didn't this air a week earlier? Because it started on the Monday after Halloween, but this is such a Halloween show. In fact, it was later established that it takes place on Halloween. So why did they wait a week to show this? Was it not ready? I kind of refuse to believe that they've been working on this all the way up to the air date. This isn't South Park, for God's sakes. I really hope that they re-air this or release it online. It might actually be on the Cartoon Network's website right now. I haven't checked. or put out a DVD or something, because I really enjoyed this and I want a lot more people to see it, and I really hope that they don't just wait till next year to show it. So if you get a chance to watch it, definitely check it out. And don't spoil anything for anybody. So that's all I got for Over the Garden Wall. Let me know in the comments what you thought of Over the Garden Wall. My name is Rob, I'm wonderful, and remember, never fear the unknown.